Do not denounce your love, because your life ends not tomorrow. This is the lines written by Veronika Tushnova. Stay tuned and let's learn more about the poem and poetess together. Hello and welcome to our 5 minutes with Ekaterina Russian poetry. Our poetess for today is Veronika Tushnova. Her lyrics were so popular in 1980s that every woman at the time, starting from the teenage age and ending probably by the late 80s, everybody read her and everybody was so touched about these lyrics. But that could never happen because being born in the beginning of the 20th century in 1911 in Kazan, the doctor's family, Veronika Tushnova was supposed to become a doctor. Her father did everything possible in order to discourage his daughter to become a poetess. She started to write her first poems in the age of 10, but he said, no, that's not serious, I don't like your poetry, your rhymes are too simple. So for long years she thought that she is not talented and she tried to hide her poetry. She obeyed her father's will and entered the medical school firstly in Kazan. And during the time of her studies, she met her husband, her future husband. They got married and had a daughter. And in 1938, she was thinking if she should continue her education. And one of her friends said her, yes, you should go to Moscow. And she went to Moscow to continue her studies as a doctor, to become a doctor. But the situation changed with the beginning of the Second World War. As a military nurse, because she didn't graduate from the university, Veronika Tushnova joins the army. And in the army, she is going through the traumatic experiences. She is working in the hospital scene a lot of, and she's writing the poetry in order to calm down herself, to comfort herself somehow. And that's how one of the best lines are written. Let's learn together one of these poems. Я знаю, я клялась тогда, что буду до конца верна, как не тянулись бы года, как долго бы не шла война, что все с тобою пополам, что ты один мне только люб, что я другому не отдам ни жарких слов, ни верных губ. С повязкой влажной и тугой в жару метался тот, другой. И я, дежурная сестра, над ним сидела до утра. Он руку женскую к груди тоскливо прижимал в бреду и все просил: не уходи. И я сказала: не уйду. А после на пороге дня губами холоднее льда спросил он: любишь ли меня? И я ему сказала: да. Я поклялась тебе тогда, но я иначе не могла. Обоим я сказала да и никому не солгала. According to the memoirs of people who knew Veronika during this time, because of her very good-looking appearance and because of her positiveness, because of her kind heart, the patients, they felt better, they felt love, they felt this warmness that they didn't have in the front line, and she helped them to recover sooner, and the doctors knew it, so they tried to free her from some responsibilities in order to have some time for going to the wards and to comfort the soldiers, talking to them, asking about their families, and it's also very good reflected in her poetry of this time. After the Second World War, she is coming back home, but this war years, long time and distance, they were bad for her marriage, and she divorces her first husband. At the same time, she decides to connect her future life with poetry. When she was on the front line, she also was called the poetess nurse, the nurse poetess. It was kind of a joke, but she mastered the poetry, even though some critics, they told no, the young Soviet state, they need other rhymes. She said, okay, I can compromise, I can write other poems, and she joins the poetry it was union at the time, because in Soviet Union everything should be in union. So she joins the poets union, and she starts to travel across the country with the poems about the bright Soviet future and with some poems about the war. And they were so aligned to her that I don't even want to read together these poetries, because they're, sincerely speaking, they're bad. So there was a war period, very hard one, when she wrote what she wanted, and the poems are so nice, so good, that I do really want to share more of it with you. And this period when she was just traveling and telling something about the country, about the economics, they were not really inspiring, and people didn't know her at the time. At the same time, approximately, she is married the second time to also to some person, to the man who was working in the union of the writers, and everything seems good. They're traveling, and he's also not famous, she's not famous, and this stagnation, nothing is going on, this hardship after the war, stations, lots of roads, they are harming her marriage. But at the same time, this internal thoughts, this not successful marriage, it helps her to create more of her love lyrics. Let's read one of it together. А знаешь, все еще будет, южный ветер еще подует, и весну еще наколдует, и память перелистает, и встретиться нас заставит. И еще меня на рассвете губы твои разбудят. Понимаешь, все еще будет. В 100 концов убегают рельсы, самолеты уходят в рейсы, корабли снимаются с якоря. Если бы помнили это люди, чаще думали бы о чуде, реже бы люди плакали. Счастье штону, та же птица, упустишь и не поймаешь, а в клетке ему томиться тоже ведь не годится, трудно с ним, понимаешь? Я его не запру безжалостно, крыльев не искалечу. Улетаешь? Лети, пожалуйста, знаешь, как отпразднуем встречу. These lines, unlike this economical poetry, they were not published, and exactly the poem I read together with you just now, I read for the first time when I was 16, and I wrote it in my diary. I memorized it back then, and these lines are staying with me through the years of my life, and when I experience something, I kind of think about it, and they're just coming to my head, and I'm thinking, yeah, the happiness is here, it's coming, we just need to wait for a short probably time, or for some time just. Her love misfortunes and the losing her love is reflected in another poem I want to share with you. It's a shorter one, but it shows the feelings, and it shows how should probably all of us behave and what do we feel during the separation time. Быть хорошим другом обещался, звезды мне дарил и города, и уехал, и не попрощался, и не возвратится никогда. Я о нем потосковала в меру слез горючих пролила. Прижилась обида, присмирела, люди обступили и дела. Снова поднимаюсь на рассвете, пью с друзьями к случаю вино, и никто не знает, что на свете нет меня уже давным-давно. Probably if you have only happiness in life, you cannot create such a good lines. So despite I really sorry about her marriage, I'm so happy that she created these lines. And also among other her works, she said that try to be together, but if you can't, just be sincere with your lover. And all this sincerity and all her ideas about it, she lived a very simple life of a Soviet person. She would separate with her husband shortly after, and this separation, it would be hard, and all her relationships, all her love, she experienced very close. And when you think about the love poems, usually you think about the poems written by man to his beloved woman. And in the case of Veronika Tushnova, you can see the different perspective. You can see the perspective of a woman who is not so active probably in expressing her feelings, who most of the times is sitting, waiting, thinking if he would come or would not come, like the example of the traditional woman in a very traditional society. And despite of this, she's doing everything she could to save this life, to keep the feelings, and if they're not there, just to free the person whom she still loves. Let's read together the poem illustrating it and illustrating her perspective on the separation. Надо верными оставаться, до могилы любовь неся. Надо вовремя расставаться, если верными быть нельзя. Пусть вовек такого не будет, но кто знает, что суждено. Так не будет, но все мы люди. Все равно, запомни одно. Я не буду тобою брошена, лгать не станешь мне как врагу. Мы расстанемся как положено, я сама тебе помогу. This separation story with no happy ending will actually bring the bigger love to Veronika Tushnova, and the poet Eduard Asadov, who knew both her and her beloved man, he said that it's a new Romeo and Juliet, but unlike Romeo and Juliet, who were in their teens, these are people who are in the end of their life. Indeed, she will meet the man whom she would love till the end of her life in her middle 40s. She will die when she would be only 50 years old because she had cancer. So this mid-40s were really the last part of her life, regretfully. And it would be a man who has already been married 3 times and who had 7 children. At the time, he was a famous poet. Nowadays, we don't really know who he is. His name is Alexander Yashin, and this was the love which was full, and it took both of them away from their everyday life, and they met secretly in the parks, forests, touristic bases. They went outside of the city because people in the city who can tell his wife about this affair, and that's so bad. I feel so sorry about Veronika because finally finding the love of her life, she cannot be happy with him, and she cannot live with him openly because he has so many responsibilities and so many obligations. It would be this man to whom she would dedicate her best poem that now is the most known, even though some people they even don't know who wrote it. These lines became a popular song which was extremely famous 20 years after the death of a poetess because it was performed by the popular at the time Alla Pugacheva, and that's why lots of people know these lines and not everybody knows that it was written by Veronika Tushnova. Let's read it together. Не отрекаются, любя, ведь жизнь кончается не завтра. Я перестану ждать тебя, а ты придешь совсем внезапно. А ты придешь, когда темно, когда в стекло ударит вьюга, когда припомнишь, как давно не согревали мы друг друга. И так захочешь теплоты, не полюбившейся когда-то, что переждать не сможешь ты 3 человек у автомата. И будет, как назло, ползти трамвай, метро, не знаю что там, и вьюга заметет пути на дальних подступах к воротам. А в доме будет грусть и тишь, хрип счетчика и шорох книжки, когда ты в двери постучишь, взбежав наверх без передышки. За это можно все отдать. И до того я в это верю, что трудно мне тебя не ждать, весь день не отходя от двери. He would never have a courage to publicly confess in his feelings, and he would never have enough courage to come to live with Veronika, and that will make her so unhappy, and eventually these feelings, these strong feelings, and this kind of need to be hidden from people, and people are talking, it pressed so much that he decided to break up and to quit the relationships, and she will write her poems to him still during several years up until her death, and her last days she spent into the hospital ward, and he came to her, he came visiting her, he loved her despite everything, and her last poem is also dedicated to him. Let's read it together. Я стою у открытой двери, я прощаюсь, я ухожу, ни во что уже не поверю, все равно напиши, прошу, чтобы не мучиться поздней жалостью, от которой спасения нет. Напиши мне письмо, пожалуйста, вперед, на 1000 лет, не на будущее, так за прошлое, за упокой души. Напиши обо мне хорошее, я уже умерла, напиши. That was the only end to the story, and when we are talking that the love will last till the end of the days, that's probably what we mean really. Sometimes love stories are not really happy, and during the love time you can find a strong feeling, and sometimes it's not a feeling that will be fulfilled and that would bring you happiness. That happens, but it's not the must-have. It's something that the poets are singing about, and I'm always pro healthy relationships, building some partnership relationships, so that's what we should think about more. And reading the love lyrics of not such successful stories, it's always beautiful, because we all have some not happy endings. But I wish you all to find your true love and to find a partner with whom you will stay, if not forever, but for a long time, and to be happy. Tell me, what do you think? Tell me if you liked the poetry, which one is your favorite, which poem is your favorite, and what is your experience. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget about your likes, subscribe for the channel if you are not there yet, and please consider supporting me on Patreon, because that's how I know that this video matter and they make some difference. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to meet you very soon. Goodbye for now.